Welcome to Debates. I'm going to rename this show Dustin's Friends. This is the Dustin's Friends episode. But Dustin has the coolest friends, so.
So we had Ashton Forbes last week, which is always an incredible conversation, right? Today, listen, I'm getting too used to saying this, but this is another like buckle up buttercup type guest that we've got today. So I go back many years. Actually, I think the first interaction I had with him was surrounding this little thing in Ukraine called Metabiota, which is in the news again because Tulsi Gabbard is blowing the whistle on all of the quote-unquote biolabs around the world that we've been funding. And then I even have a UAP UFO / CIA intimidation story with this dude. So this should be a really good one.
Okay, well, we have a little bit of technical problems with Game right now. So he's joining. Yeah, he couldn't hear anything. So once he comes back, then you can give more of a rundown. But we thought we were going to go into, what'd you say? It echoed a bit.
Yeah, no, so I can give a little bit more background while we wait for him to get in. So Gabe and I actually...
Now? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm back, guys. I'm so sorry about that.
How dare you, sir?
Good.
Deeply offended. I actually...
who this guy is.
So, interestingly, Game was the one. So, Game is looped into all kinds of interesting stuff. But Game was the one who broke the David Grush story. So, the UFO whistleblower that's been making all kinds of news. And he actually broke that on a space that I was holding. So, like, we helped break that story together. Like, he had the inside track and inside info. What's interesting about Game is that he seems to have very interesting high-level contacts, like inside DC and government more broadly. And so I've come to rely on him for all kinds of like interesting scoops. And what's funny is after we broke the David Grush thing, the CIA's favorite online publication, the New York Times, actually reached out to him and our friend Josh, who is somebody else. Dana, at some point, we'll do a show with Josh on alien symbiotic theory, which will blow your mind. But so yeah, anyway, all of the UFO, UAP stuff, Game is crazy dialed into all this stuff. So we'll talk about that because lots of interesting or Game, am I wrong to say, like, I feel like all of the disclosure stuff is kind of boring? Like, it's
getting
for me, bro.
You're absolutely, that's my sentiment. That's the thing is I still get, dozens of emails each week about this topic. This is one of the biggest stories that we've covered, Dustin, probably in our lifetime and will ever be in our lifetime. We won't cover a bigger story than this. But yeah, it's kind of just, it's fizzling out for me professionally, just because of what we're about to highlight tonight. There's a lot of confusion on this topic, and I think it's purposeful. I think it's purposeful confusion, but yeah, right as soon as we get into it, we'll get started. I don't know how long you want to kind of drag the audience with us, but I'm here for it, man. I appreciate you guys having me on tonight, by the way.
Well, so you
happy to have you.
So Game, you knew that Grush was going to be representing a group of whistleblowers, and that would be congressional testimony before anybody else. Like, that was a story that you absolutely had the scoop and exclusive on. But
yeah, and just to rewind that, Dustin, we ended up talking about the spiritual nature of things when we broke that story, and that was one of the highlights that I was, was kind of directed to say, hey, look, if you really want to hit a home run on the story, highlight these key aspects of it, because these key aspects are what is going to be highlighted in the media in the future. So we hit every single aspect of this story, and we hit a home run. We did a wonderful job working as a team together to push this information out. And then 2 weeks later, we had the David Grush story come out on News Nation. We had that James Fox interview the day before the David Grush promo hit on that Monday. There's just the timing of it, just the information that we got. We hit home run after home run after home run with it. I was very proud to be a part of that. And then the additional stuff that just come in little pockets, every now and then I would get a little bit more of the meat and potatoes behind what they're coordinating. And here's the highlight, Dustin. The David Grush testimony in Congress was very important, but I think that the media really took and the social media influencers, other than us, because we were the only ones, go fact check me, folks. We were the only ones to highlight the safety and security of these scientists. We were the only ones. And this was 3 years ago. And now we're seeing that these scientists are ending up missing. So there's that.
So roughly, this is. Go ahead, Dustin.
No, go ahead. I interject at any point, because otherwise it can just be me and Game reminiscing fest.
I was just gonna say that this is where you guys. This is how you guys met, right? So this is who you're talking about, David Grush here, this guy. Yep. I don't know. It's a bit weird because I actually don't know what I can ask you and what you're allowed to say. So I feel kind of like.
Well, that's the good part about it, though. You're in a fresh seat. You are the audience. You are a part of their voice. So whatever you come up with, the audience is thinking the same exact thing.
I also, no one can tell me not to talk about anything. So I'll even talk about the time that we invaded Area 51 and stuff, if you really want. So there's no questions that are off limits.
Well, what I find really interesting about this is when Game, you were talking about how news is spread around, and it's really figuring out what gets traction first and then just kind of leaning into it. It's really how rumors start. You kind of have good ideas of what might actually catch fire. Not really sure. You make educated guesses, and then whatever gets picked up, you just lean into more. Is that how the news works? I mean, that's how you get these stories early. You're basically taught how you should frame the story for a particular theme.
I get what you're saying, and that's the hardest part of getting stories before the media announces these stories to the public. When I get a story prior to the media taking a hold of something, it's really hard to be as accurate as possible, and then as well as telling people, hey, this is my opinion about this story, this isn't factual, but this is where I lean towards. And usually I'm right, and that's only because I'm a genius. So
Game, here's my question. Here we are. It's been 3-4 years since, right? And we'll talk about the biolab stuff in Tulsi Gabbard, because I think that's also crazy important, and it's somewhere you have message expertise. But on the disclosure stuff, we're years out, and I have yet, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I have yet to see a single thing that I hadn't heard a long time ago, and in fact probably heard with 50 different additional things. I tend to be like Ashton, where I'm so frustrated with fake disclosure, and like I feel like like Steven Spielberg has a new Disclosure Day movie out, and the UFO files are coming out, and it's a bunch of grainy ass bullshit and secondhand accounts of like, oh, I know somebody who knew somebody who said this. Like, and meanwhile, scientists are like our top physics and quantum scientists in the country, like in the world, are disappearing at a alarming rate. Like, is this, like, can we even call it disclosure, or is this like a bunch of, let's call them UFO UAP gatekeepers, like just literally milking the same bullshit over and over again? Is that too harsh?
no, it's not too harsh. That's exactly what it is. And I've told, well, you've told people from the beginning. I've told people from the beginning. Josh has told people until he's blue in the face that we're not getting disclosure from the government. That's not where it's coming from, folks. We're getting disclosure from the scientists. We're getting disclosure from the people who have worked on these craft. We're getting disclosure from the military men who have retrieved these craft. That's where we're getting disclosure from, not the government.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the case, right? It's just we didn't know that. We thought, right? We thought the news was kind of legit for a long time.
Yeah, right.
I mean, not you and Dustin, not me, but I think you guys like came out of the womb just kind of questioning everything. Took me a little bit longer.
Well, if Dustin remembers back, I told Dustin before we even started this that I said on this story for about 3 months. I had this in January of 2023, and
Why?
I didn't know how to report it. I didn't even know if it was real. Sometimes my sources come out of the woodwork, and you don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know how credible any of this is. And I said on it, and then come to find out, I was getting some DMs in my back channel of hey, the story's about to come out. Are you going to highlight it or not? And I was like, well, absolutely, I guess so. The right people spoke to me about it. So right as soon as the right people spoke to me about it, I went with it. And Dustin was gracious. I can't love. I know I'm kissing butt right now, and I normally don't do that, but Dustin and Jennifer have my highest respect, and working with them was so easy and so fluid that it was easier to kind of explain what was about to happen. And it was a great story. It was a great space, Dustin, and I'm proud to have done that with you and done this ridiculous story the way that we did it. I think that we did it in a very mature and very responsible fashion rather than the explosive tinfoil stuff. We did it correctly.
See what's funny, Game, is I'm not, like, I have no doubt about, I shouldn't say no doubt, but like that there are extra beings, right? I don't know that they come from faraway stars. I think I've always said it's time and dimension has always made more sense to me. But you know what I'm a skeptic about is the whole freaking UFO UAP disclosure community. Like, it is one of the most gate-kept / psyoped communities, and like that's saying a lot in this world. And my frustration with the whole thing is that, like, even the first hearing, and then ever since then, to me, it's been one gigantic cry for help, because you have one branch of the government, usually the military in some capacity, talking to another branch of the government, the legislature, and both of them are saying, like, we don't know who's in charge and like where all the money's going. That really, the disclosure has basically been, we have zero freaking clue at all who's actually in control of all of these black budget things.
It's not the government. The government's not in control of this. And that's the that's the problem, that the real Lindas of the world, that's the problem that they can't grasp. They think that the government has involvement in the majority of this, and in reality, the government is just a middleman. That's the reality of the situation. And now we see the government creating these narratives about what these entities are. And let me tell you, in 2024, Dustin, I don't know if you picked up on it or not. I'm sure that you probably did, but in 2024, I tweeted out one of the scoops. I got a lot of backlash in the back channel about it. And so much so that I even had UFO filmmakers contact me and say, hey, cut it out. Cut it out. This is not the time for that stuff yet. But I came out with the post, Dustin, that said that these aliens were demons. And then JD Vance just a few months ago validated my post, that was the consensus. Now, I'm not saying that we're correct. I'm not saying JD Vance is correct. I'm not saying my sources are correct. What I am saying is that's the narrative. That's the narrative that they're going with. And I have a scoop for you, Dustin, if you want to get into it, about two narratives that you guys will hear about in the near future.
Oh, let's go.
All right. Have you ever watched the Star Trek, The Next Generation? Have you ever watched that show before?
Yeah, I think I've seen a bunch of it.
I want to tell the audience, if they have a little bit of time on their hands this week, I want you to watch the first season of Star Trek, The Next Generation. And the narrative that is kind of forming right now, one of the narratives is that we live in a galaxy with a lot of different intelligence, and they even interject the spiritual components of this narrative. They interject the Christian components of this narrative because they don't want to scare the majority of the religious people in the world. That's a very, very they have that on the radar. So one of the narratives is that God exists. God has created intelligence over this whole entire galaxy, that we're not the only life forms in the cosmos, and that these beings that are showing up are spiritual in nature and physical in nature. So there is a level of different types of beings, and basically it's kind of like the Galactic Federation sort of narrative at play. Now, if you remember, Josh Reed told you about this Galactic Federation narrative back in 2023. Do you remember that?
Of course.
That I wasn't on board with that, Dustin. I didn't know I didn't get that part of the scoop yet. But it just seems now that Josh kind of introduced that into our lives, it seems like he was, I don't know how accurate he has been with his reporting on this, but from what I've heard from him, so far, and even background discussions, it seems like he is pretty close to what the narrative at play is with what the government's doing. Now, the second narrative is more interesting, and it's more simplified. The second is, and the congressional members are actually wanting to adopt this narrative rather than the first narrative, the Star Trek narrative. The second narrative is that these beings are demons. Everything that we're seeing with these UFOs are either demons or angels or a combination of both. And that we are living in the time of revelations. That is the second narrative. And the red orbs have a dynamic to this because these people are paying attention to these red orbs. I don't know why. I don't have that information. I'm not going to pretend to know why, but that I just want you guys to put that in the back of your mental computers. Put it in your computer. Remember that these people will be highlighting these red orbs. I don't know why, but they are. And some of these congressional members, the aides, they love to talk over dinner. They're suggesting that these red orbs are coming from an exomoon by Neptune. That's what they're saying. That there's an exomoon, that there's a moon that is around Neptune, and that's where these beings come from.
So like the mothership. So Dana, I'm curious. Had you heard about Eisenhower's meeting with the Galactic Federation?
Negative.
Like in the 1950s?
No. Can you give me a rundown on that?
Essentially, Eisenhower. This has been going around. Like I've been hearing this story forever. Essentially, Eisenhower met with representatives of the Galactic Federation, and in that meeting made a deal that allows them to capture a certain number of people, so like the whole abduction stuff, in exchange for technological advancement.
Okay.
So, and it's funny because I also have been seeing a bunch of videos out of Russia lately that are also like around similar times. So like we have the Roswell crash in the 40s. Then in the 50s, there's lots of, all of a sudden, the abductions go up, the level of reports of UFOs and other things in the sky goes through the roof. Like things start getting weird. And what's interesting is about this stuff is now we're getting all this like supposedly new information, but honestly it's just a recycle. Like game, you brought up Star Trek. Jen and I went through and we rewatched the X-Files recently. Like Mulder, Scully, the X-Files. So, ridiculous, like the debate between are they aliens or are they demons or is it all a secret government psyop? Like that's the whole plot line of the X-Files. Like all 9 seasons or whatever. And it feels in a lot of ways to me like what the space is missing is new information. And instead what we've gotten is we've just gotten the recycled debates that have been happening like decade after decade after decade. It's kind of frustrating. I
think that we've moved the needle more than the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Though I think that we moved the needle quite a bit the past couple of years.
I think where the needle has moved is not in, and maybe this is just me being like an old man, like get off my lawn because my beard's gray and stuff, right? But to me, it feels like we haven't moved. Like the number of people who are open to the idea and or believe that aliens are real, I think that's probably like all-time high, right? What I don't feel where we've gotten advancement is like legitimately new verifiable information.
That's because we're trusting the government to give us the information. That's asinine. Like, why would we do that? That's the problem, Dustin.
Yeah,
honestly, I honestly want to pick on certain people, and I don't want to do that because I don't want to make enemies. You know my heart. I don't hate anybody, Dustin, but these influencers, they're part of the problem, whether they want to admit to themselves or not. They are. And the reason why they are is because they don't challenge the congressional members that they do have in these spaces. They don't challenge them on what you're talking about. Like, we're, people like you feel like we're sitting ducks. We're sitting in the same exact position that we was prior to the release in 2017, prior to the New York Times report about the Nimitz video and all of that. People feel like we're still standing in that same general area. And the only thing that I have to say about that is it's only because these congressional members, and bless their hearts, I do love the conservative value congressional members. I don't have any qualms with them whatsoever, but I do know for a fact that they have no emphasis on this topic at all, and they're pretending that they are, though. And they're hoodwinking a lot of your audience, a lot of my audience, a lot of the UFO community's audience. They're hoodwinking them, and a lot of people are falling for it. And I don't understand why.
Well, so I think this is the space is just full of so many charlatans and clout seeking, whatever. And because it's so over the top, and it's been, because it was marginalized for so long, it's attracted, and a lot of the people who have been built up are less than credible. We'll put it that way, right? Like, it's kind of frustrating, we'll put it. But so let's shift topics a little bit. So, Game, I think was the first big story that you really did with, right? It was you and Blue Canaries on Metabiota. That's the first one that went like insano viral.
Oh yeah, the Metabiota story is probably the meat and potatoes behind all of the work that I've ever done. So yeah.
Explain to Dana what Metabiota is and like the history of the story.
Do you want the sensational side, or do you want the quick summary, or do you want the full shebang?
Give us the summary shebang, but add in the spice.
All right, I'll just do it. I'll do it my style. Basically, the government's trying to kill you. The government's trying to kill you, and they have used other companies to help that along. And one of those companies was a company called Metabiota. Metabiota is they label themselves as a pandemic response company. Okay, that's what they label themselves as. This isn't information from Game. This is information from Nathan Wolf and Metabiota. Metabiota was ran by a guy. He is called the Monkey Bat Virus Hunter. That's his nickname for himself. Okay, the Monkey Bat Virus Hunter. And he goes around these jungles in Africa, and he goes around these jungles in South America, and he fishes through monkey poop and bat poop. He goes through feces. He's a poop collector. And what he does is he takes this poop and he sends them off to these labs in Ukraine and elsewhere, Georgia, Kazakhstan. So we have all of these viruses floating around all of these biolabs, and we're funding it. We're funding it. I'm sorry about the background noise. I'm next to a base. So here's the meat and potatoes behind Metabiota. The government was funding us finding these viruses, sending them off to the labs, And not only that, Dustin, but Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was even invested in Metabiota. And that was the marker for me that was the cream of the crop for me. Was I ended up getting Hunter Biden's laptop about 2 to 3 weeks after some other people got a hold of the laptop. I had some good friends. I went through that laptop, Dustin, and I was looking for stories to cover off that laptop. That laptop was the #1 trend on social media. The New York Post got a hold of the story, the New York Times, and it snowballed from there. But everybody in the media wanted to concentrate on Burisma. Everybody in the media wanted to concentrate on the prostitution and the crack addict and the drug use and even the really sensational side of the Biden family with the diary and all of that. They wanted to cover everything about that laptop. You were here for it, Dustin. You were here for it. You saw the media play this story in its entirety. But they left one thing out. And that's what really got me interested. I was trying to find a story that the media wasn't covering, and I found it. I found it in his emails that he was doing some business dealings with a company called Metabiota, and he ended up buying a 33% stake in this company, a pandemic response company. And he did that in February of 2014. Now, Mike McCormick has some additional details, and we did a space, me and Blue Canaries did a space with Mike McCormick. He is a stenographer for the White House. He's worked under Clinton, Bush, Obama, and I believe he ended up resigning right before or right after Trump came into office. So he's even covered this story, and he provided some additional details that I didn't even get. And it's a wild story, Dustin. I mean, for Hunter Biden to be able to know which company to invest in, and then the Department of Defense gives the contracts to Metabiota not even months after that initial investment by Rosemont Seneca. This was just a story that the media wanted to completely hide. The congressional members, they want to completely ignore it. None of the congressional representatives have ever spoken about Metabiota. Why? And so now this ODNI release last week had really got the story back into the fold. I'm kind of glad that it did. I'm kind of glad that you're covering it today because it's an explosive piece, Dustin, and it's the biggest type of project that I've ever been a part of.
So I think that, listen, it's a good breakdown. The story's crazy. So like, I think people tend to, I think it's kind of like a trauma response. We all want to remember that the government put us on house arrest and told us that the air was going to kill us not very long ago, right? That's not ancient history, like that's recent history. And so I think there's a natural tendency for us to just want to move on with our lives. But this is why things like MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and the work that like we did there is so important. What we've known for a long time, but what is now being confirmed by the government in some ways, is that Anthony Fauci and NIH and all of the big mechanics that fund both sides in politics, big pharma lobbyists, donors, etc., the Sackler family is another example, that they were funding biolabs all over the world, and those biolabs were experimenting with. Rand Paul's done a good job. I want to give credit to Rand Paul because he's been great on this. Gain of function research. So like when you hear that, it sounds very like boring and technical, but gain of function means you're taking a virus and usually you're adding something to it, or you're genetically modifying it in a way that can either make it more deadly, which is usually the case, more transmittable. And that's the kind of research that was being done in the lead up to COVID.
Well, what they were doing was they were causing outbreaks. Okay, if you look at the Sierra Leone story, the CBS article, I listed it into the article that I wrote that's published on Laura Loomer's website. If you go down to the CBS article, you can see that how they were containing the Ebola outbreak back in 2014 and 2015. And so you can see how Metabiota was in charge of containing that outbreak. I don't know how many people were familiar with that aspect of the story, but they were. And so CBS wrote basically kind of a hit piece on Metabiota. I was shocked. But yeah, they take and they find these viruses, they send them off to these labs, they genetically modify them, and then they cause these outbreaks. And when they cause these outbreaks, what they do is they predict how these viruses spread, and they utilize that data for whatever they're up to next. That's an opinion. That part is an opinion, but it's a good opinion. It's a really good opinion, because if they're collecting data to predict on how these viruses spread, then the next type of information that they have with the next virus, they'll be more in tune with how they can basically kill us.
I also, I'll point out, and this is how media lies. Like, you end up getting lies built on lies built on lies. So Metabiota and these biolabs, not to put you on the spot, but in Ukraine, where are those located? Like, where were they located?
Well, that's another interesting story. Blue Canaries. This woman. Let me tell you about this woman, Dana. If you're not familiar with her, Blue Canaries is literally the best researcher on X, or one of them. She was Ian Carroll before Ian Carroll knew who Ian Carroll was. Like, that is her bread and butter. She's the best. And she has taken and looked through every contract, every pretty much every biolab. She has even contacted the government or a business in Ukraine. I don't want to mess this up because I've already messed it up prior, and she got on to me about it. So I'm trying my best not to mess this up. Accuracy is the most important thing for Blue Canaries. So that gives you the kind of, go ahead.
We'll bring her on again in a couple of weeks, but
I hope so. I hope it's just you, Dustin. I highly suggest it be just you, Dustin, and her, because she is an outstanding, and she's very comfortable with media now, thanks to GameTech. She'll appreciate that.
I'll second. She's a great researcher. I've watched her break real life news, sometimes years ahead of everybody else. But the point I was getting
years and years and years ahead.
But the point I was getting at is that these biolabs were in eastern Ukraine and Crimea.
Yeah, and she created a map. That's right. She created a map.
And then
where these
after Russia invaded, right? One of the reasons that Putin has stated in his speeches was the dismantling of these biolabs.
So how did I not know that I never heard of this. I have never.
It's because of the blackout of the story. Anything that I touch, it gets blacked out. I'm not kidding.
So these stories, you have to be dialed in to like certain information channels, right? Like the algorithm, depending on, like, if you're in our so the way the algorithms work, they call it clustering.
Mm-hmm.
So right? Like maybe you're in 2 or 3 clusters. Like I'm in the poker cluster, the conspiracy cluster, and the crypto cluster, for example. By the way, my cluster is the coolest cluster. We have the best cluster. People say we have the best people. It's amazing. But
I don't know. I can challenge you on that one, Dustin. I have a pretty strong community.
But what's interesting about, like, when you say, like, why haven't I heard this stuff? Within the last week, and again, this is information that some of the smartest people I know have been on. We even have talked to, like, I always screw up all these Eastern Bloc names. I think it's Andy Teleshenko or Deshenko. I think it's Teleshenko.
Deshenko, yes.
Right, but he's barred from coming back to the United States and testifying against, like he's a whistleblower, got kicked out of the country. We revoked his passport. The Democrats on the oversight committee had his passport pulled, so he couldn't come testify. Long story. Anyway, we've been talking to these people and chasing these stories down for years, and then only recently, Tulsi Gabbard, like on her way out the door, has confirmed that the NIH and Anthony Fauci were funding more than 30 biolabs around the country. And those biolabs were
120, Dustin, 120.
And was it 30 countries?
I mean, I knew about the funding, but I'm not tapped in like you guys are. I'm more interested on the health side. I don't really believe anything about health.
So a lot of the good health warriors are on this stuff too, because, like, again, it's the origins of these psychopaths who think it's okay to be like, oh, well, let's take it. I mean, this disease, Ebola is deadly, but could we make it deadlier? Like,
and Dana, just to add on to what Dustin is saying, this is the cabal. This is what the Epstein files are all about. That's what people don't understand about the Epstein files. They think that the Epstein files is all about the diddling and the sex trafficking and all that. That's not the information that we need. We need the dark sciences of what the Epstein cabal was doing. And Nathan Wolf was best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, so it's that whole entire cabal, and it's the dark sciences behind the Epstein cabal that kind of started and created this domino effect.
What I don't understand is this always been the same pattern of just the, like, fun of experimenting on people, even from, like, long before with polio and seeing how people respond to it, and then putting out new vaccines and pairing them with proteins that trigger your immune system. Like, if you look at the ingredients, they're not made to create an immune response in the way that helps you most of the time. Like, sometimes maybe, but like there are plenty of doctors that are thinking, these things have caused autoimmune conditions. No need to add that on top of a dead virus protein. It just is too risky. Like, that in itself, that's like separate from all the DNA, RNA stuff. That's a whole nother level. But then, like, going back, so is it just for funsies to experiment on people? I don't understand. And what's the point in trying to kill us? For fun, population control, natural resources. Like, I feel so stupid not understanding the whole point, even if I'm a psychopath crazy person.
Well, it's the hard thing about going down the rabbit hole is you can't ascribe logic to a lot of this stuff. Right? Like, it's
that is so true, Dustin. That is so true.
That it's not a normal pattern of thinking. I think too recently the scientific ethics paper on weaponizing, like, if you could weaponize a virus that made people allergic to red meat, whether that would be ethical. Like, it's insane. Like we settled this shit in Nuremberg with informed consent, and yet
that one I kind of get, right? Because if we're stuck using lab meat, then people can buy into it, just like they were able to buy into Metabiota, like financial incentive. So is it always financial incentive most of the
from the scientist perspective? I think it is. I think a lot of it just spins out of control, out of pure insanity, crazy, stupid stuff, right? But a lot of this is straight evil. Like Bill Gates is an evil human being. Anthony Fauci is an evil scumbag human being. And the evil encompasses corruption, hate a fellow man, narcissism, sociopathy, right? Like so much of it comes down to control, or the I don't even like to give them credit, because like they don't really have control, but it's like the desire to want to feel in control, if that makes sense. So
what do you think Trump's going to do with this type of stuff, Dustin? This is what I think my audience is concerned about. They're concerned what Trump is going to do with this. And here's what I've been trying to kind of explain to them, what I think is possible. This is just in my opinion. I don't know if I'm correct on it or not. But I think that the ODNI release was very, very scripted and very important. And I don't think that it was just by accident. And here's why. Look at all of the movements made by Tulsi in the past 6 to 7 months. Just look. Go down to Georgia. Remember the little shadowy picture of Tulsi standing by a fence, and she's got her little hat on, and she's watching the votes being boxed up and shipped out. Then we have the Cuba type crisis that we're working and dealing with. Then we have the DSOA, the Democrat Socialists of America. We have the infiltration of China, CCP in our military with Milley and the rest of them. Dustin, I just think that it is possible that Trump is tricking these people. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. The vaccine is the problem with the Trump administration. Let's call a spade a spade. And I don't want to do that because I love Trump. But I got to be fair and I got to be balanced. And so do you, and so does the rest of the media, especially with this tribalistic nature thing. I think that if we as people, as a voice, as MAGA, the people that Trump listens to the most, I think that we need to plead with Trump to get something done about this. Because this is we can sit there and say that the UFO story is the biggest story of our lifetime, and that is true. But take the UFO story out of the scenario for a moment. This Metabiota story is the biggest story of our lifetime. It is. And the reason being is because we have proof now that we have government actors, people who worked in the government, that took and founded these viruses and unleashed them onto the world, whether by accident or on purpose. All right, let's put our media hats on. By accident or on purpose, we need to figure that out. And I think it behooves the Trump administration with this latest release to give the audience of this release, including ourselves, to give us some breathing room, to give us a sigh of relief that these people are going to be held to account. And I understand the dynamics. I understand that we can't allow the enemy to know what we're up to. I understand that psyop of the whole thing. And that's the issue that I have with my own community, is that sometimes they don't understand the psyop of it. But my question to you, Dustin, is where does Trump go from here now?
Well, so let me just say this. Trump is not Jesus. So and I will never be okay with what happened with COVID. Like, first and foremost. With that said, I think Donald Trump has done more to advance he's given us more threads to pull on and more disclosure than we've gotten by far than we would have ever gotten under Kamala.
I think you're lowering that down a little bit. He's been the transparency president more than any other president combined.
And so at some level, we're never going to be satisfied, especially with these narratives that have been bubbling for a long time. Because
the reason they're not going to be satisfied, Dustin, is because people are dying.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, I think people are frustrated, right? Sometimes because the real stories that we have told ourselves in the absence of any real information are frankly more sensational and amazing than the raw real stories that we got. I could give the JFK files is a great example of that. To some degree, the Epstein files, which is we want these crazy over the top pictures and videos of all of the things that we've been talking about, our possibilities, and it often just doesn't live up to the hype. And I'm guilty of that. You've heard me do it throughout the UAP disclosure stuff on this. Maybe that's also me just being overly loyal to Trump. Straight up, I've been on team, literally on team Trump since before he went down the escalator. I've been through hell. I've sacrificed for real. And so I want to give him the benefit.
Can I opine by that, just for my audience sake? What he's saying right now, Jen and Dustin have been through hell, literal financial hell. Not only that, but your safety, man. I mean, your safety with these blue-haired libs, and that's why I'm such a fan of you guys, of dealing with such an extraordinary time in your lives, and you've done it with grace.
Well,
you've done it with grace.
Listen, I appreciate it. I don't like to play the victim, right? I believe if you allow yourself to just constantly talk about bad shit, you attract bad shit. But the point I'm getting at with Trump is, do I wish, if you made me the benevolent emperor, I would absolutely, I would Saddam the Congress, right? I would go in and I might even take it above Saddam and do the public executions Ned Stark style. This is Game of Thrones. But, right, the reality is a lot more nuanced and complex than we often like to admit. But with that said, here the issue I have, I refuse to see a doctor. So and I don't even know if I've told this to Dana yet, but I lost so much faith in the medical system that the rules are I only go to a hospital if it has to be by ambulance and I'm unconscious.
I think
otherwise I don't trust I don't believe that the doctors you see at the hospital are anything but pharma pushers. They don't practice healing in any meaningful way. And as I'm in my mid 40s now, this is where dudes my age start having heart attacks and health problems and shit. I'm not going I don't trust anything. And similarly, it's hard for me to trust the people who are on the outside. So it's you end up in this weird gap where it's who are we supposed to believe on the shit that matters to us most, like our health, or on these other topics, war, who's trying to poison us? The thing I can't wrap my head around with Trump, and this is where the breaking point for me will be. How the fuck is Anthony Fauci still running around? Right? We have enough information of him breaking the law that we should be able to go that he should be tried for all kinds of things. How is he still just cruising around? How are all these deep staters that we've exposed? if the arrests don't happen, then to me that'll be the point where I look back at the Trump legacy. And Trump is a weird spot. His legacy will either be the president who allowed COVID to happen, right? The crazy bioweapon vaccines, mass corruption, inflating debt that led to the destruction of the economy, or he's going to turn this thing around and like arrest a bunch of people, and we'll the guy who ends the income tax and transforms the nation in a big way. But it's like, man, like I'm looking at my watch, but man, we're running out the clock here, Prez. Like,
October is around the corner, Dustin. October is around the corner, and you know my sources are pretty fresh. You know,
well,
and
I'll say this: you don't get to like give me some bullshit like, we're going after James Comey for taking a picture of 8647 and seashells on the beach. Like, we have motherfuckers who were spying on Americans, who abused the FISA to take warrants out and put us under surveillance, who took our bank accounts away. Like, we have people who tried to destroy you and everyone who ever supported you, Mr. President. Like, go fucking get those people. Like, enough already.
You know, the answer that DC and the Trump administration, the Susie Wiles team, is that and the Todd Blanche, they're just going to tell you that, Dustin, you guys got to just be patient. It takes time to build cases, and we're not even far from being finished. That's kind of the answers that I've been getting in the background, Dustin.
Well,
you know,
I've known Ed Martin for almost 20 years. He's one of the good guys. I have several friends who work like directly underneath Blanche. I get mixed reviews about, right? And sometimes that's just internal politics bleeding out to like people I talk to about different stuff. I will say this though, they've been very good about pardons and commutations, right? Like there's been positive momentum that way. But I don't know, game. Like, I'm burnt out on the tease. So like, right? Like what feels
well, you're in a difficult spot. Your audience is probably, you know, kind of giving you a lot of rub about, you know, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about the Epstein stuff? I get it, man. It's like playing mental gymnastics for myself too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no one says that shit to me because they know I'm not putting up with it. And I probably know more. But, like, it's funny because when Dana told me you were coming on, I felt guilty because I realized I haven't shared any information about the biolabs with people. And then I was trying to, like, figure out why. Part of it's, like, I've had this information for so long, it feels like old news. And in some ways, like, we have to remind ourselves that, like, even though we knew about the shit 5 years ago, like, the people are coming to it now and, like, should be guided to where the real information is. So
that's what I told Dana earlier, is basically that point, is that the media is not doing their jobs. The social media influencers aren't doing their jobs. And I told Dana earlier that I probably did 1,000 different media appearances on Metabiota alone. I'm being facetious, maybe 100 to 200, but it's up there. So it's just the silence, Dustin. I mean, it's not. It's frustrating.
All of this is that I'm so apathetic about trusting anything. So, like, why would we think that any system is gonna turn things around? And Dustin, you probably like rolled over on that information because you already, some part of you feels like, well, like, what's the point? I mean, when you see something and then you talk about it, if it's not interesting to that person, they just tune you out. It's like, how does this change my life? Doesn't matter. They're still going to trust whatever they trust. So
it's I was so naive when I was young, right? Like my and this really, it's like my whole story is that like the reason I got involved in government, the reason I got involved in politics, the reason I got involved in media is I had this idiotic belief that like if you exposed corruption or brought obvious solutions to the table, like that somehow that would make a difference. And what I found is like a lot of these people have done evil at levels that are almost unfathomable, and it's hard to like want to take all of the hits that you take when you break a big story and they put you under surveillance and they send the bot networks to come fucking lie about you and attack you and the lawfare, like all of the shit that you have to go through to try to expose stuff, and then to look back and be like, so I paid a heavier price than the people I was exposing on a bunch of this shit. So right from just a pure like, okay, let's add up the cost benefit of like doing the kind of work that game does to break stories and try to like bring information forward. A lot of times the math doesn't add up unless you add the like spiritual moral component, right?
Yeah.
If you're not doing it for a higher purpose on paper, right? And that's got to be the biggest frustration, because like part of it is like, if Donald Trump's not going to put a bunch of these assholes in jail, like who do we have to fucking, like who are we supposed to get who's like has a bigger axe to grind than Donald Trump does with these motherfuckers?
Yeah, and then you don't know what deals have been made already. So he's playing the game as well. Any politician or president has to play.
Great point.
I remember I worked on Capitol Hill like just when I was like in college, just a little like intern. And we had those like signing machines in the back. I was from Georgia, so I worked for Saxby Chambliss and another office there. They would have like people like me signing bills. Like, what am I doing? I don't know. We're writing his speeches and like helping him remember what deals it's not just him, it's all of them. They have to spend their time. I mean, you guys know this. They have to spend their time showing face. So any deal they've made, they have to like keep up with it. So we don't know. There's probably tons of reasons why a lot of these guys aren't caught. So then you just waste it feels like I mean, I would feel so apathetic about it. Like you're spending so much time, telling everyone about like all these bad things that have happened, and then nothing comes of it. Like, when's the hammer going to come down? I don't know. So then it's about just protecting your family. At least we all know what's going on, and reminding ourselves that you can trust, but you need to verify. And that means you can't trust. So we're all in the same boat with that. And like, it's just sad. It's just how everything is. Health, government.
Well, I'll say this, like the plus side is, and it's easy to be negative about this stuff. Like the point being, I want to see bad people go to prison and really face the justice that they deserve. But with that said, I also am surrounded by some of the most awesome people in the world who overwhelmingly avoided the most expensive psyop of all time with the lockdowns and the vaccines and the jab and January, right? Like we all kind of survived this crazy period in history together. So, right, like I shouldn't overdo the negativity. Like it wasn't all for naught, but like
it's just so crazy.
We should demand more justice. Like,
the medical side of like there was no one dying who was outside getting vitamin D, like nobody. So, I mean, that's like the worst, like the craziest thing to me. If people are
still wearing masks. Like they make you that mask you're hanging right that hangs from your rear view mirror that you've worn 40 times actually makes you like every study going back to the Spanish flu in the 1900s has shown that it makes you more sick. More sick.
Yeah, you're exposed to the same bacteria and you're hypoxic.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I just cover my breathing apparatus with some like dirty rag that like I drag around everywhere with me. Like it's so maddening sometimes to like see it, but I also sometimes I feel like that's part of the psyop, which is like we get to part of the psyop is making us think that we're smarter than everybody else, and so
right? Yeah, but it's not even like smart. It's just not believing like everything that you're told. It's not even like being smart. It's like, oh, once you realize you probably shouldn't do that, then you start. It almost seems like somebody has to get really sick or have like some really bad political thing happen, Dustin, or whatever it is. And then you wake up and now you're like in this void by yourself, waiting for other bad stuff to happen to other people so you can relate and be like, oh, yeah, I remember the days when I used to trust everything. Those were the good days that, I lived in naivete.
Well, it's funny. You put a comment up earlier from Cheney. Cheney's my like person who's like way for like even as far as I've gone down the rabbit holes. Cheney's been down all of the rabbit holes.
Yeah,
like she got to the bottom and then she found the secret entrance like at the bottom and followed through that to like bring it to a whole nother level.
Well, I want to hear more about this secret entrance to what.
She does find the next level of things. Like she'll pick up that next pebble rock that no one's looked under yet. She's gonna go find it, turn it over.
Cheney's amazing. Shout out to her. Shout out to you, Game. Keep breaking the good stories. Appreciate the scoops. We'll look for those headlines in the coming months because they always play out. Game, you got anything else you want to share with us? Where can people find you?
GTP_podcast on X. That's the only social media that I do. I am paying attention to one more story. If you got 2 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, tell us.
I've been paying. I briefed you a little bit, Dana, earlier about the emergency broadcast alert systems. They've been going off everywhere around the country. Systematically, there have been reports where these alerts will come on people's phones every 5 minutes. That has happened this past weekend. And then the day after that, these alerts and these emergency alerts that are broadcasted, just not even 12 hours later, we had a lot of the 911 systems around the country go down. And at the same time, we have pockets of people without power. That's been going on for the past week and a half, and that's everywhere. It's not just one particular area. It's in the Midwest. We have one in Washington up north, I would say 3 hours north of me, that we have some blackouts occurring. And they're blaming it on weather. I don't believe the government. Whatever the government says, I don't believe. But I've been paying attention to that, and I just want you guys to kind of pay attention to it too, because the media is completely silent on it. But it is happening, and it is happening at such a degree that I'm paying attention to it. So if I'm paying attention to it, I hope you guys are as well. Thanks, Dustin.
Did you hear about that? Did you hear about those alerts? I didn't.
I hadn't heard about that.
No, I didn't.
I will send you guys some documents. I don't want those documents shared. They're government documents, but it kind of explains. It gives a weak response to the explanation as why these alerts were going on. I'll send those to you after the show.
Awesome, thank you. So your Game's gonna come on and tell us breaking news when he has new stories. So I'm gonna hold you to that, Game.
Thanks, guys, and I appreciate you guys welcoming me on to the show. I hope you guys much success. Dustin, I love you guys. I love Jennifer. Tell her I said hi, and I hope you guys are blessed.
Sounds good. Cheers, brother.
For coming. See you soon. Come back soon. What'd you say, Dustin?
I said that was good.
Yeah, I thought so. See you guys next week, Tuesday, right? You're going to be here next week. Every Tuesday.
Yep. Let's do it.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.